Welcome to another episode of Unpacked. My name is Aaron Eason, aka Mr. Always Good, Never Bad.
And I'm Greg Figueroa, aka Felony Fit. Today we are introducing another guest. We have up here Rico Hundo.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rico Hundo. You know the vibes. You might have seen me on 8 at the Table. You might have seen me somewhere going viral on Instagram. But thank y'all both for having me. I feel like we about to unpack some crazy shit.
We are.
Right?
Yeah,
but can I curse or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, speak your truth.
But that's a big change in the space from our last episode. I was told to watch my mouth more than once.
I know how the ads work. You know, I don't want to get.
That's not even it. It's just a matter of
it was
like
where
you at to communicate whatever it is or who it was.
It was a time and a place, and in that conversation, it wasn't necessarily warranted.
Got it.
But yeah, man.
You gave us a little bit about yourself.
Facts. And actually, I was going to get into that and ask you to edify yourself for a little while. Just tell the people who you are and exactly where we can find you and how you've come to where you are right now.
So I'm Rico. You know what I'm saying? You can find me Rico_Hundo on all platforms. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You might find people, you might Google me and you'll see that it's listed as a music artist because that's how I started. Right. I came into the industry as a music artist. When I was 20 years old, I got kicked out of college. And you know what I'm saying? Once I got kicked out of college, I said, well, I was already feeling like college was slowing me down anyways. So I'm about to be a rapper. You feel me?
Facts. So now you had to resort to your own means. So what'd you do?
I started rapping, and then on my 21st birthday, which was about 30 days later, I opened up for Fred the Godson and Corey Guns.
Okay.
Maybe about 6 months later, that August, maybe July was presented, but by August that summer, I signed my first record deal with EMI.
Okay. Wow.
And then I did that for about a year, but just like every starving, hungry, young black kid, you know what I'm saying, they just want whatever they can get. So I signed a bad deal.
Right.
Realized that, fought that. It took me about a year and a half to get up off of that. And then I went independent. Then I started doing all types of things. Like I just blew up. Like I started doing modeling. I worked with Cardi B for a couple years. Then I was on Essence Magazine, did Puma campaigns, Calvin Klein campaigns. That transitioned to 5 television shows, MTV.
Wow.
Yeah, then from there, 2018, I got offered another record deal.
Right.
With an A&R. Shout out to the Britt twins. They actually were the reason why I moved to LA.
Okay.
So I moved to LA in 2018 in August, and what ended up happening was, pardon me, what ended up happening was they had about $250,000 advancement for me. And I'll never forget it. They called me on FaceTime because my dream car was the i8.
Okay.
Right? So they called me. And I'm like 24, 25, right?
Right.
They're like, yeah, you said your dream car is an i8, right? It's right here for you. The money's sitting on the passenger
and everything
seat.
you want right in front of you.
Right? So I said, well, I signed the lease, so I'm already on my way. We about to go work. I had to produce the EP for them, blah, blah. What ends up happening is that same August, one of my friends, he's actually my first customer. When I had left my label, I started working at the Apple store. And my very first customer, when the iPhone 6 came out, I spent my whole shift ringing him out, like $100,000 worth of iPhones.
Wow.
So, but I got really cool with him. Man, he hits me up. So now this is years later, right? He hits me up the same August in 2018. It's like, yo, who does your marketing and who does all that? I'm like, me. I don't have anybody. I just do everything by myself. But he's watched me go from over here to like
mature.
Yeah, like right here. And he's seen the accolades. More of the story, what ends up happening is I turned down the record deal. And I said, why would I borrow $250,000 when I can go earn $250,000?
Facts.
So I took his marketing money and I grossed $1 million in 9 months.
Oh.
From 2018 to 2019, September to that like Marches, and I've worked with all the celebrities: Fab, Lil Durk, G Herbo, Eve, Big Fendi, 50 Cent partnered up with me, and for 2 months promoted me, and then we donated about 5% of all sales to his charity that give back to the low income areas. Right. I did back to school drives with Lil Uzi Vert and Bernice Burgos, gave thousands of backpacks and stuff. News came, A Boogie came, Don Q came. I did a basketball youth tournament. I started
You
giving.
stay active. That's
Yeah.
one thing. That's one thing that I definitely gained from all of that. You stay active. But now,
And that's how I started podcasting. So as I'm blowing up and doing all these different things in 2018, I had my first audition because I was sponsored by a vodka company. Shout out Plush Vodka, and they partnered me up with the audition. And then from there, I was podcasting since 2018. And then really, I just been adding I've been utilizing every single talent, every single skill that I had in all different areas to always keep me in, the limelight for whatever it is. And right
stay
now,
relevant. Yeah, stay
podcasting has
relevant.
been the
That's it.
thing.
Now let's speak to that, because it sounds like on one hand you serving a lot.
Yeah.
From all that stuff you just said,
Right.
you're giving of yourself. But the last thing you just said is, I'm just trying to keep myself in the limelight. But I feel like you speak super sure of yourself, super clear about what you are and who you are. But I think what everyone wants to know is what you stand for real. Like, who are you? Like, it sounds like you got a lot going on.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's nothing very clear about any of it. It's just, I'm Rico about it. I'm about everything. I want something. I'm going to get it. But why? Where is this fire coming from? What? Why does it sound like you've been hurt in the past?
Right.
Like what? Like
Right.
keep it that. Like
and I
where's
love it.
all of this coming
And I love
from?
it because that's what, when I said, how did you arrive? You know what I'm saying? That's what makes this show so dope.
Got it.
Because that's how you arrive is how you ultimately unpack that bag.
Yeah.
And that's what we get to.
And how did you do a 180?
Yeah, like we
Because
get
it sounds like you
to
didn't have to do it. Like from everything you just said,
That was good.
it doesn't really sound like you had to work on anything. No, I mean, that's respectfully, like if anyone heard that,
Like if someone
wouldn't
heard
hear
it,
that.
they would assume that the success
Your
was already
trajectory was
preordained.
always on up.
But now people want to know how you could have managed that. That doing that 180 had to have involved a lot of emotional, you know what I'm saying, unfooting. A lot of times you navigating a space that you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
Like to make it from such a negative space to a place where you're prospering and you're serving constantly, but not only offering a service, but you're gaining accolades for that service. So it's twofold. You know what I'm saying? Like where you're enjoying the success and the spoils of what you're reaping, of what you're sowing rather. You know what I'm saying? So how did you arrive to that place where you were emotionally stable enough and figured out things to a level enough where you could get into the podcast space and start making your opinion on matters that we all deal with daily? Like I've watched some of your podcasts and I watched some of the things you talk about, and some of your opinions, I'm jacking. Like some of them opinions, I'm like, bruh, like I'm so glad.
I'm with it.
Yeah, like I'm so glad that there's a dude able to say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's confident enough to say that. But to have that level of confidence, you've had to weather some kind of storm to get to a point where you're that sure of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. So when I was, I'm gonna answer your question, but it just made me think about something. When I was going through, I was out on bail, and I mean, if you've ever been throughout the legal process,
Man, don't call me felony fit. Because,
I know.
You know, I'm a quiet boy. You know what I'm
when
saying?
he first told me his name was Felony Fit, I said, "Oh, I could relate. Come on, let's work."
Say that. Say that. And we
But-
was in the yard too, so you know how we got down. Like we was in the yard, we was in Signature, so you already know the vibe.
Fact.
The vibe was crazy.
fact.
Nah, for
Especially
real,
at the
it
time.
was, and I appreciated it. I'm a type. Well, let me not get off
Right.
off topic, but
Stay on task.
when you're dealing with those things and you've had a case and you're beating or you're fighting the case, right?
Because you don't know what the outcome is going to be.
You
And
never
that's
know.
a stressful situation in and of itself.
You count
Because I've been there
You know what I tell everybody
more than once.
You like the realest thing that I ever realized when I was fighting my case is like you don't know your days is numbered until you have a case
Mm.
and your sentencing date is right there. You counting the days, and especially like my situation, I took a plea deal, so in my mind I was already going in.
How long was your case?
The whole case was about a year. Well, how long was I out on bail?
No, I was. Mine took about
Yeah,
a
how
year and a
long-
half,
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
I know how you feel.
see, and this is crazy because
They tried to give me a speedy trial, and because of COVID.
right.
So I caught it in 2019, and October 24th, right? And but actually, I don't want to jump right into that just yet.
Copy.
I want to answer your question on how I arrived because I took it at first, my apologies. I took it like, how did I rap to the podcasting space, right?
Nah, we don't. You are who you are. How you arrive
Arrive
to
to
the
me.
man that you standing
Right. You
behind
gotta
now. You know
unpack
what I'm
that
saying?
bag.
So I mean, originally I'm from Perth Amboy, New Jersey, right? The Delaney Homes Projects.
Okay.
That's where I'm from. That's where my family's from. That's where my heritage is from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They
That's where you were
gentrified.
expected to stay based on generational trends.
Exactly. So then
Right.
when they knocked down our buildings, that got flushed out to KSB at a point in time. And it's like, it's so funny because I be seeing these kids like, the fact that I be having pools in my apartment is crazy because the only thing we had was fire hydrants.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, but when I was a kid and like my dad was a great basketball player, but he was never there for me, right? But he was a great basketball player. He went to Arizona State. He was the best point guard at that time in the state of New Jersey.
Dope.
My mom was a great athlete, very, very smart woman, graduated and top of her class in accolades, right? I mean, in academics. When I was born, the pressure for me to be great was already from the beginning.
Right.
Like, if
So
we
you
were from a
come
small
good.
area, yeah.
Right, but you come from greatness.
Yeah, my dad's the one that made it out the projects. He's the only one that made it out the projects. If you was ever in the projects, to make it out the projects is like
It's a big deal.
it's a
Right.
big deal. It's
Big
it's
deal.
like
Huge
it's like
deal.
graduating college.
Right.
Yeah.
You feel me? Even if you don't graduate college.
It's providing a light for everybody else, showing them that it could be done.
Exactly.
Facts.
So, but everybody was like, yo, you the chosen child. And ironic enough, they fed me that energy and I was great at everything I did, but I was extremely bad. I was tougher than my father. I was
Right.
in the streets because where my mom was working 3-4 jobs and I'm sitting in the house with rats, mice and roaches and shit like that. Like, all I had was my cousins that weren't really older than me. They were like 14. All of them was gang banging. My whole family come from a blood heritage.
Gotcha.
You feel me? And by the time I was 13, I was in it too.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
13, 14.
Yeah.
And I caught my first case at 14 years old. I got caught selling drugs in school. I caught another case at 18 years old. I was 18 for 3 weeks. I had D1 AA scholarship, partial scholarship to Delaware State University. And I lost that because I had caught a gun charge. I beat the gun charge.
But yeah, you didn't beat the other version of that
Yeah.
situation where you
I lost the scholarship.
because of the case.
Yep.
I know how that
But
go.
my friend, and me and him were popular in our school, and we always used to tell people we was gonna be on TV
Right.
since like 16, 17. We knew that we were destined for greatness because had the discipline, we had the drive, and we had the charisma. And well, I was good in and out of the streets. You
Right,
feel what I'm
right,
saying?
Facts.
But what happened was he went to a school and he's like, yo, and I appreciate him forever for this. He said, I want to come to your school and play football with you, but I got to bring my boy. But this is the situation. This is now in like June or July. I finally beat the case. And they're like, all right, we'll give him a shot. We watched this film. We really like him. Is he a knucklehead? I don't know.
Right.
But they gave me a shot. And that was the start of how I got here. I grew up very poor. There's points in times in my life where I was homeless. And when you have a single mother who's working 3-4 jobs and she's getting it the right way, not the way that these women get it now when they get the BBLs and they trick, you know what I'm saying?
Facts.
She did it the right way. And like I said, like we slept in cars for a long period of time. My grandmother wasn't there. She disowned us. It was just me, my sister, and my mother. And I watched her really get it out the mud. And she provided a level of work ethic and discipline in me that I don't care how bad it is, we gonna get it. You know what I'm saying?
That right there explains so much about your point of view in the clips that I've watched
Yeah.
and the questions asked of you in certain instances. The way you stand concrete on your evaluation of yourself or a man's evaluation of himself and how he's supposed to be not only perceived but honored
Yeah.
to a certain extent and given a certain amount of respect as the head of the household if he's claiming that title. And I'm not saying a woman being subservient, but a woman becoming a man's equal in more ways than just claiming half of his belongings,
Yeah.
actually matching that energy.
And my mom instilled that in me because my mom told me from the very beginning, like anybody, women or men, they're gonna take what they can get from you.
Facts.
It's natural.
Facts.
You
Everyone
can't be
comes
mad at them because you
It's human
gave it to
nature.
Yeah,
them.
everyone comes with an agenda,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not.
Without
And
question.
some could be reciprocal, some could be one-sided. But
Mhm.
what ends up happening is all of that, you know what I'm saying? And I can't really dive too deep in it because it would take a lot to unpack all of it.
Right.
Because a lot of that
It's a slow process. Unpacking is a slow process, without question.
And you when you come from a point where it's very unfortunate in your life, and you have big dreams, you have no choice but to suppress how you feel about your situation.
This is true.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah,
This is
absolutely.
true. As actually, I
Preaching to the
believe
choir, without-
if you
yeah,
pay too much
100%.
attention to your situation, your dreams will never seem
Yep.
real.
Yep.
But I think that's how I've arrived to where I am. I don't pay attention to the problems long enough for them to grow on me, for them to grow around me. Like it may be the problem for a long time, but I'm still finding solutions and I'm still living life and I'm still smiling. I'm still happy. I'm still effective in my walk of like towards whatever greatness I'm claiming, because I want just as much as the next rich person or the next happy person. But like my problems is real. I just can't pay attention to them.
Because you know what it is? Your problems is real, but you realize that your problems are inevitable. And that's one thing that I realized.
Thanks.
I don't care. There's 1,000 people who are struggling like me.
Right.
And to tie it in what I was trying to say to you before, when you have that process, when you're battling a case and you have to submit your letter to the judge, right? I remember I submitted this whole like sorry felt letter, like, yo, let me tell you how I grew up and how my brain was, and I've made a lot of effort and
Right.
changes
you,
to be
You have
who I
1,000
am.
reasons why the devil made you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And you know what my lawyer said to me? She said, you don't have the toughest story out. And there's always the toughest story that judge has seen.
Right.
This is a fact.
And when she said that to me, I said, well, damn, you're right. So what's the difference between me and them? And it's not the story, because there's some that I have that are
It's what
tougher
you
than
do
others.
about it.
Is what you do about it. You feel me? It's how you decide to, what decision do you make as a
How
person?
you use your story is the most important thing. I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, like, people pay attention to the fact that you went through something and then you're on the other side of it, but they don't
Right.
know what you had to use to get to that other side.
Right.
A lot of times, like
It's a lot of
maybe
dark
with you,
spots, man.
honestly,
A lot of
that's
dark
why
spots,
I really I want people to understand what you've gone through and how you unpacked it. Because yeah, all right, you say you went through a lot. That's a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
But now you here. It's like, all right, cool. I could do it too.
Facts.
Nah, what did you use? Where was it at? And I'm hearing you talk about how you didn't pay attention to your problems. You have habits that you formulated in your mental, in your soul. You know
But
what
I'm a
saying?
dog, though. You hear me?
Yeah,
That's another thing.
Dogs look different, bro. Dogs look.
no, I'm
you
not
looking at all three
I'm
different
not- I'm
types
not-
of dogs.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I know, I
we are
understand
all
what you-
the same
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah, but
you're a dog. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing. A lot of
When it's in you, it's in
It's
you.
in
in
you,
other words.
True, but I want to turn
yeah.
people into dogs too. Is what I'm
you
saying.
Yeah,
can't
facts.
though. I don't
Mm.
believe you can.
I don't. I agree. I
you
agree to
can't
some
turn
extent.
the dog like you can't. Like he might be
You
a
can't
puppy.
give somebody. You can't give somebody the killer instinct.
You
Like,
No,
you can
you
never
can't.
give
All right,
LeBron what
you
Mike
can't.
had, what Kobe had. I
You
understand.
can't, right.
I understand.
I can make
But
you
why
tougher.
why do you think Kobe did it the way he did it? Because he knew people were going to follow him in one way, shape, or form. Jordan know ain't nobody about to be Jordan.
Listen. You could lead.
But his greatness was something he was like imploring on people.
And that's who I studied. Like, yo, you know, it's so funny. And I actually just made a clip when I was a kindergarten and elementary school, right? For kindergarten through 5th grade. By 5th grade, I got in trouble because like they were like, you can't keep doing summer book reports on Michael Jordan. And I said, but he's the only one that does it right.
Right. His story.
He's the only one that wins. Well, I don't want to study nobody else. I don't.
Right.
No offense to LeBron, you're not a solid winner in my book. Like you gotta want to win at any means necessary.
So how don't you? I mean, I don't want to make this a sports podcast, but
Yeah.
how don't you put
Are you a LeBron
Kobe?
fan?
Or how don't you put Kobe in that?
You know what I did
situation?
in that similar situation? I studied Muhammad.
You see what I'm saying?
I actually thought it was more about the character and the person that was doing more than his sport and affecting people in ways that like you couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
And like his name, you could talk about him in 3, 4, 5 different categories, and it was years ago. Like that's my grandpops era. You know what I'm saying? And he has this effect on me as a man. And there's a dog in him that looks different from every other athlete dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I meant by.
But he's a dog. He's still
he is a dog.
Like,
he is a dog.
He might be a Great Dane or a German Shepherd, but that's a big dog.
I agree.
Natural instincts.
I agree, and I think it's also about how we appeal as the dog we are. Because again, I believe this is why the platform exists, and this is why this space of discussion exists. Because men like us are serving to help other people that really can't figure out what kind of dog they are.
Yep.
And you might not, but you need to serve the world as the dog you are sometimes. And realizing what kind of dog you are is the most important thing. So you can be of service.
Unpacking
I'm not saying like the dog you like the big dog. I'm saying like if you're a Chihuahua, we need Chihuahuas out here too. You feel me?
But unpacking the bag.
Not as in society does, you know what I'm saying?
In the process of unpacking the bag, you determine not only what kind of dog you are, but how you're meant to be of service to other people. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't, like to be a dog is one thing, but to be a dog and not know your most useful, what you have to give to people. You know what I'm saying? To not know your purpose. A always talks about finding your purpose. Like we all have a particular fight in us, especially as Black men, because we're trained to fight for generations. That's how we're trained to fight and to survive. And we was talking about that last week, not being meant to be in survival mode. You know what I'm saying? But too many times, like my story is actually more similar to yours than I actually thought. But I mean, mine took a far different trajectory as far as the amount of time spent behind the wall and the way the process went and what it did to me. But in those moments when you get from A to B, when you deal with those things and you do that 180, in order to survive those different parts of the storm, you find things and you find out about things out about your own character that you don't know is there until you're in the moment. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to
find out you're the dog that you say you are.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like we practice. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I was a dog. But you figure that out.
I know you're a dog. You feel you're a dog, but you have to be in practice. Like if you're a dog, you're not in practice. You're not prepared for those moments. You know what I'm saying? You're not prepared for those moments where the dog in you not only has to show itself, but you also have to lead.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to be ferocious in a fight. It's a whole nother thing to be ferocious in a fight and to be aware enough that you have other people that you're responsible for or other people follow you.
I'm actually glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up because
talk about it.
You know how women are always talking about being in their soft season or attempting to or wanting to. Of course you know.
You know he know.
But not. I think it's dope though. I think it's dope that they created a narrative for that so they could actually acknowledge that they're not soft or they need to be softer or like own that version of their femininity so that they can actually accomplish what they are looking for.
It's such a counterproductive argument to the normal feminism type of
right. But it's what we want. It's what they want naturally, right?
I had to put my leg up now. This way.
He about to get into his element now. He about to get into his element.
I could care less about that conversation, really, to be honest with you. Because I feel like as we're talking about the dog we are, we've been different. We've been that same dog in different ways, and now we have to be a different type of, not a different type of dog, but we have to respond differently as the dog we are.
Right.
And I was wondering if you agree that we're coming into our soft season as men, attempting to transition how we approach moments as the mature version of ourselves, as the more delicate, strong man, to kind of like not have the same issues we used to have when we used. Because if you talk about you was bad at fifth grade, I can just imagine you had issues with authority, right?
You know, that's what the judge said, but I don't think I had issues with authority.
Nah, you can only imagine. But just like just on the description of your upbringing, I mean, the natural pushback seems like, I mean, I hate to be one to say statistically speaking, but there's enough data there to know that type of upbringing is going to provoke certain situations more commonly in certain lives than others.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we're not prepared for what the system will do to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those moments, like people don't understand, those moments are traumatizing. Like I've been involved in this for a long time, but you don't
Right.
understand what it does to you.
I was on the podcast in December, and I said, I still, if anybody knocks on my door 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I still get PTSD.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And that shit, there's that
There's certain
moment when
things
they
that'll never
snatch
leave
you
you.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know the things that I did. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I realize, and this is what I try to tell everybody, it's cool to do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? If you be in the streets and do what you want to do, but understand that everything comes back. You know what I'm saying? When I tell you I did that 180,
Right.
so I haven't done a crime since 2016, 17, right? And then they come back 3 years later
Right.
to take $1 million business that I built legitimately.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
I had
Everything comes back.
Consequences is
Yeah, there's
different,
a
bro.
consequence
and
to
you
every
pay
action.
for it. You
Yeah.
feel me?
So
And you know what
different.
saved me? The fact that I know what it's like. See, the thing is, I can never forget where I came from. I can never do it because it means so much to me. When I was 19 years old, I started studying Wayne Dwyer.
That's my guy.
Right?
Talk about
That's
it.
my guy.
I
Yeah.
started studying Wayne Dwyer
Yeah.
at 19 years old, and one of the things that he said to me, well, he didn't say to me, but one of the things that I took from him is embrace every decision as if you asked for it, good and bad.
Right.
Embrace every outcome as if you asked for it, good or bad. So
Subconsciously you did.
yeah, so it's like I made that. When you learn to embrace it, there's no more resistance towards it. When you have no resistance towards the negativity, it allows you to find solutions. It allows you to get over that hump, that obstacle,
Right.
and it allows you to realistically grow into a different type of dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I had made that decision when I started seeking knowledge because I realized, so unpacking, when I was 14 years old or 15 years old, my stepfather, who was the OG, and he's the one that taught me how to really be a man. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
He was gone. He got arrested, and he did like 3 or 4 years. Then his son, which is my stepbrother, but he's my big bro. That's my
Right.
big bro. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? He, you know what I'm saying, like, brought me home. You feel me? So like, he was locked up, and they
Right.
charged him. I was 14. He was 16. They charged him as an adult with armed robbery, and he did like 7 years. So then when I got to college, right, I started having survivor's remorse that G Herbo mentioned, and I felt that because I stopped going to school,
Well,
and
there's a tremendous amount of pressure there. There's
everybody around me was getting locked up, dying.
Yeah.
I had no close friends, and in December 2011, every single one of my best friends or closest family members that were men was gone.
That's
Everybody.
crazy.
They was either gone, or one of them got sentenced to 40 years. We like, yo, we're 19 years old, 18 years old.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And
So you were figuring out
Right or
you-
wrong, these are examples for you though.
yeah,
Right or
right
wrong, they are lessons right there in the flesh for you to take,
to
you know,
learn.
your next step from in life. You
But you
understand?
start
What
to feel-
decisions are you gonna make?
But you know what you feel too? Like, I mean, we already know, but what I felt was
Responsible?
I was worse
Oh,
than them.
Oh, really?
I was worse than them.
That's different. I didn't expect you to say that, but go ahead.
And I'm
Elaborate.
like, they don't deserve what I really deserve. And
Oh,
I'm
you
in
mean
the
you got away with a lot?
Yeah, and I'm in the position,
Okay.
and I taught them. Like, I was the brains behind the operation, and so like they didn't deserve what they got. But then again, they still, now as an older, more mature man, I understand. Listen, we all know what we signed up for and whatever we do that comes with it. But as a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, you know, boy who's got a second chance at life, and all of your closest ones is gone, it messes with you mentally because you like, why am I here? And then you
Right.
start to be like, yeah, I'm here for a purpose, and it's easier said than done.
That's a fact.
Right.
And you have
That's-
no
that's-
mentorship. We have
Right.
no guidance.
We have no examples, you know, that are here to walk with us. Like
So-
our
so what-
examples,
That's how I fell
unfortunately,
into Wayne
are
Dwyer.
either locked up or
You were
dead.
looking for people.
I was looking for.
I was
looking
on
for
the scene. I had Wayne Dwyer, Tony Robbins. I was really
Yeah.
just. I was
Alan
trying to
Watts.
find out what to give myself
It's crazy.
and use and remind myself because if you think you're great, right? but no one's saying it. We talked about this. No one's telling you.
No one's
You
affirming.
have
it.
to figure out how to create those affirmations for yourself.
Yep.
And I think Dame was the one that made me realize like bigging yourself up, talking to yourself in a great way is your form of affirming.
Right. It's not
You know what I'm saying?
arrogance.
It's not arrogance. It's not cockiness. It's kind of like how you keep your foot going forward, one foot in front of the other, and you're disregarding the problems that are happening so that you could keep moving forward, upward, like trajectory of greatness, and not just greatness in the sense of money, but like actually meaning something.
Overall well-being, purpose.
Yeah. Like falling into your purpose.
And when my mom got this tattoo, and it really signifies with me and her story. Pain breeds strength. Trust your struggle, and that's something that I hold on to, because at the end of the day, that's why I am a person that gives back. When you ask me who am I say I'm a kind-hearted soul who dealt with a lot of trauma to understand and be the example for every other not like-minded soul, but similar souls, to be that light and to understand you don't have to do anything once you get to where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? Like I saw a Shaq post today, and he was talking about the Ja Morant thing. Okay. He was like, one thing, like he's talking about the gun and how he's an NBA athlete, not a rapper. But then one thing that he said was that I hated was you gotta do things to not put yourself in a situation where they can take it away from you. And that part bothers me to my core, is that we've always relinquished our power to others. And we usually do it once we get to a Shaq height, once we get to, somebody monumental. Muhammad Ali is somebody I look up to too.
Yeah, but he did it differently.
He never did it. I don't think he did.
Here's the thing.
You can educate me, by the way.
So here's what
I don't know. No,
but he didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's why I love that man.
Yeah.
Because he was able to, he was ready for consequences, but he didn't do it like an idiot.
Yeah.
He didn't respond to it like they wanted us to respond to it. Right. Angrily, ignorantly.
His demeanor, it was just too.
He said
so classy,
respectfully.
And it was respectful.
No.
Yeah.
And respectfully, do what you got to do.
Right.
And on the other end of this, I'm gonna come out, still be that man that I am today. Don't worry about it. If this is what I'm faced with, I'm gonna stand on my 10. And that's why I believe a lot of people could learn from that man, but like not a lot of men get to do that. And not a lot of, the world doesn't respond to men like that when they do that. Like, for example, Kyrie.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people get to do that, but you also got to remember the climate at the time, what was happening, and the statement that's what I'm saying. The statement that he was making, that's the statement that he was making. And when you're put in a position, and we talk about finding a purpose and shit like that, but when you're put in a position to, now everything you say about who you are, it's like put up or shut up time. Yeah. Like you have to stand on this, otherwise you're a fraud. For real. You know what I'm saying? If you don't stand on this, you're a fraud.
Well, that's the problem, because a lot of frauds get together and okay that stuff.
And they affirm each other, and
they start a podcast.
And then it becomes
and then you got
think about how so you just said something that makes a lot of sense to me, but now think about how everyone went against Kyrie. And no one stood next to him and agreed. Because 9 times out of 10,
you see, it's just hard in situations like that, because when you get behind certain people and their opinion wavers so chaotically,
I think
it's hard to justify getting behind somebody with wavering. Like
we talked about this. I agree with you, but we're talking about the consensus of the topic, not so much him. Because it was like,
but that's how people
they disagreed with something that they wouldn't, like in a quiet room, not disagree with. They would, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's how I built my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to guess who I am. You don't need to guess what I stand for. You don't need to guess what I represent. I'm gonna show you my day-to-day actions, and everybody that I keep around me are going to be doing the same. And I had a lot of great, rich friends that I've met along this 10-year industry thing that I've been doing.
Right.
And I would never, once I find out that money can silence you, I don't want you around me.
Mm.
I don't care, because for me, I don't fear being poor. I don't fear having nothing, and I don't fear losing it all. If it's something that I stand for, I'm gonna speak on it and I'm gonna stand on it. And there's not a single podcast, there's not a single, radio or label exec that's gonna be able to say, hey, look, you should be quiet. And I think that people like Muhammad Ali, they demonstrated the right way to do that. Kyrie demonstrated the right way to do that. And then when you realize that,
That's crazy that you guys are comparing Kyrie Irving.
No. It's just the ability for him to be in a position, because he stood on 10, whether you like it or
Yeah,
not.
he stood on 10, but I'm talking like that's why
I'm
I
not
said you have to take
comparing
into
the person. I'm comparing
I'm
the
not
decision.
comparing, but I'm
in the
saying you
moment.
have to take into account the nature of the climate at the time.
I do
no,
understand.
his is so much more at a lower level.
Understand the magnitude
So
of what Muhammad was dealing
here's the problem. What is the point of what we're trying to say? Because that's all that really matters. We're trying to say,
how does a man get
if you
to
believe
a point
something,
where he's so sure of self that, like, in that moment that dog shows himself, like you're not prepared. Like we were talking about it in the hallway prior to starting the show. Like we practice for that moment unknowingly, but when that moment shows itself, you know what I'm saying? That's when you really judge a man's character. Like,
but do you know
do
there's a little story behind Kyrie that people don't really know too much about?
I mean, I don't know too much.
He lost his mother when he was young.
Yeah.
Okay.
His father used to be a great ball player.
Okay.
Could not make it. Ended up going through a little bit of
trials and
a drought. He
tribulations.
was selling cars. He went from being the man to not the man.
Okay.
And he instilled everything, all his passion and drive into his child.
Okay.
And
doesn't sound so much different than a lot of stories so far.
yeah, but you don't know why he has so much passion behind his belief.
No, you don't. And
Right?
and
but
I say that all the
fact
time.
that he's
you
a
don't
man
know.
that gets to because not a lot of black men get to believe, bro, in something and stand behind it publicly. We just don't.
No, it's
Especially on it. Like it's the same. Believe it or not, I think he's Muslim, right?
Yeah, who?
Yeah,
Kyrie.
Kyrie.
Yes.
yeah.
And
Kyrie.
guess what? Funny enough, so was Muhammad Ali. You know what I'm saying? So like
Understandable.
so I'm not comparing them.
Well,
to,
no,
I'm
no,
comparing
because
the ability
because
for us
because
black
a lot
men
of their, I understand
be able to
the
stand
correlation.
on our 10,
Well, you
whether it
gotta-
be something small
the-
or grand.
the
And that's
thing-
what he's saying.
Yeah, because you know what happens with black men? Black men is this. We've grown up with nothing, majority of us.
Right.
So we get a little something and we fear losing it. Okay?
Right.
So like,
Right.
with
And
the-
we're in survival mode, so we know that a lot of times standing on our 10 can hinder that next step.
and so what you do, you
Sell out. I
you-
mean, not. I mean, for lack of a better term.
No, it
sell
is
out.
no, it is what it is.
It's you
Sell
know
out.
what you're selling out on though? The authentic version of yourself.
Facts.
Exactly.
You start
you're
to put
selling
that
yourself
thing that we
short.
talked about before, a mask on.
Right, you
and then
start
you
to-
can't really figure out how to stop
You can't
creating
ever
that
take
mask
that
after
mask
that
off
because
now because
yeah,
once
because
you've given away yourself.
which is why I say it's okay now to do the opposite of what Kyrie did, because that's what the whole NBA ended up doing. And now we're gonna end up everyone's gonna start wearing masks as time goes along with the next problem and the next thing, because it's gonna make sense that they do that because we know why he's doing that, so he can say the bag, so he can do this, so he can do that, and we're okaying it as
Who's we?
largely as far as a we, because we can't,
I
us
don't wanna-
dogs can't stand against 1 million,
Yes,
2
you
million,
can.
3 million. We can, but it's gonna be
Yes, you can.
it's like that's why greatness
You
gets
ever read the 4 Agreements by Don
yes,
Miguel
yes,
Ruiz?
yes.
Do you remember the Angel of Death?
In the beginning,
Or yeah, I'm pretty sure that was that one. It's at the end. I think it's the last one. I hope I'm not mixing up the books, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's in. And when you live by the angel of death, which realistically says it's almost like a YOLO type of thing, to paraphrase it, but it's not YOLO as in reckless and frivolous. It's YOLO as in purpose, by any means necessary. I all my life I had older friends. So I remember when I was 21, 22, when I'm doing my music, I'm in this rap group. Everybody's like 28 to 30. I got into an argument with all of them
Okay.
because I'm like, so y'all mean to tell me we had a similar conversation? 'Cause they didn't like it because they didn't want to accept it. I was like, money will make you shut up.
Yeah, money. Yeah, people.
Opportunity
people,
will make you shut up.
I mean,
but-
if you ask a broke person that, they're gonna say whatever they think they should say in the moment.
So how do we go forward? And then they start using all these other people like Martin Luther King's like, they will silence you. I was like, well, they can only silence so many people before they can't silence nobody else. And the problem with me was I'm willing to be silenced by the worst of the ways. And it does not scare me. And it does not waver me. It does, like, you can tear me down, but I already been down. I was born down.
So you willing to die for what you believe in.
Exactly. And I don't fear it. And you know, I never did. Like, even in 4th grade, I got detention and suspended because I'm arguing with the English teacher because I'm telling her she spelled the word wrong on the board. And she's trying to tell me to be quiet. And I'm like, no, but you're wrong. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know wholeheartedly what you're saying. That was my entire childhood.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was
most
the
of
kid.
his adulthood as well.
It's very hard to get me to change my mind. And it's not because I'm not remaining a student. It's because what I believe in, I came to this conclusion for a reason. I didn't come to this conclusion because I want to be arrogant and ignorant. I study myself. I study things well enough. And I've experienced a lot to where I can walk alone with my thoughts, with my opinion, and I'll get to the other side just fine. I won't need anyone's help. So it's like, convince me not for your sake to make you look good. Convince me because you're trying to teach me. Convince me because you believe, like a lot of people are just trying to impose their will on you.
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell. I used to be able to say I can tell, but I had a very, very closed lens at that point. So now I can tell because now I'm a teachable person. Even when I'm trying, I probably won't listen to you. I'm listening to something I can learn.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because every moment is for me to get an experience of understanding from, whether it's about myself or the other person or life, whatever the case may be. So back then, I was definitely that type of person. Mm-hmm. But that arrogance can't live anymore because I've gotten so far with that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've gotten very far in my opinion, but I realized, I could get so much further if I use that tenacity with learning curves, with people teaching me, with like an open mind, like, and still stay a dog.
Yeah. I mean, of course, but the thing is, in my personal opinion, when you start to waver, habits and rituals are important. And what you do for small things tend to happen what you do for big things. So, and too many people, I believe, change their habits and their rituals for the worse. So I do agree, you always need balance, right? But not speaking about your situation, but situations that I've seen in general, I've seen somebody take one short on their chin from their job. One short always turns into two.
Right.
Two shorts always turn into 3. And then next thing you know, it's just
when it becomes a way of life.
A habit,
a ritual. Because you allow it.
Exactly. So like, I do think that it's very important to be receptive to information. But it's also more important to filter it because we've been told lies from the very beginning.
Right.
We've been told lies. Our parents was told lies, so on and so forth. So we have to filter it. Now, for the people in the audience that are listening, I understand, how we get caught into this vision of where we see ourselves. And then we try to take the shorts and our obstacles to become to that vision.
Right. Yeah.
Oftentimes, those shorts are to prevent you from being something that you're not supposed to be. Okay? Like, I had a dream of being in the NFL. I was a great athlete.
Right.
Would you think I would be able to be as outspoken as I am right now if I was in the league?
If you actually made it to that.
Hell no. Right. I would be fined, kicked out. And you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to be that person. So I don't think everybody should do it. I don't want to turn it to a sports thing, but Antonio Brown, people are calling him crazy. He's not crazy. He's fed up. He's fed up of being told what to do. He's fed up of another person talking down on him. He's fed up of a whole type of suppression that he was dealing with as a black man.
I think that
you explode.
I think that there's a lot that. See, I'm a very opinionated person, and my opinion is not always shared by.
When's y'all birthdays?
September 11th.
Okay, you a Virgo. I'm cool.
June 15th.
Gemini. Yeah. I get along with both of you very, very well.
I mean, I'm a strict believer. I mean, I know that there's a lot that goes into that shit, but I'm a strict believer that I'm just me, and you probably get along with me no matter when I was born. Because like,
depending on what one of you want to be, you right?
Well, I
Because
like.
if you
I'm
don't want me
pretty
to like you, I'm
consistent.
pretty sure you can make us not like you, right?
I don't think
Well,
it's possible to know me and not like me.
No. I said if you don't want me to
Oh, if
like
I don't
you.
want you to, yeah, I would. Yeah,
that's
absolutely,
why.
100%.
And
I
speaking
can
to
control
that
the narrative to
reality,
that extent.
speaking to that reality, that's
But-
why I don't agree with Antonio Brown's behavior
Okay.
because he wants to act up.
But I was just about to hold on 1 second. I was about to get into something because you both mentioned like being that argumentative youth. You know what I'm saying? Being that argumentative youth.
Immature.
Damn.
Becoming a man that stands on his own too. You see, that trajectory for everybody is different, right?
Mhm.
And although I want to sit here and say there's no time in which a man should waver, you know, unfortunately, because of the system that has been created to make us feel the way we feel and the way it's meant to attack our minds, like in those situations of incarceration and throughout that, you know, for lack of a better word, time of trial and tribulation. I'm talking about trial and tribulation from an emotional and spiritual standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint, like actual trials.
Mhm.
Like, there's a lot of moments where, yeah, you want to stand on your 10. You know what I'm saying? You want to be 10 toes down, but you're also handcuffed and you want all your teeth to remain in your mouth. So there are moments that a man is tested. You know what I'm saying? There's moments where I've been tested because I was that argumentative kid. You know what I'm saying? I grew up with an older brother. I grew up with older cousins, God rest their soul. And the way we grew up, as far as like, I ain't grow up, and I tell my story all the time, I ain't grow up in no, you know, project situation. Like, my real name Clarence, you know what I'm saying? I got real
Is it
good
really your real
parents.
name?
No, that's not my real name. I'm just saying I got real good parents, and my parents got a real good marriage, the whole nine. But I say that to say, you know, we grew up in that generation where we fight, you know what I'm saying? We shoot the fade in the backyard, you know what I'm saying? We tough it out, you know what I'm saying? So I'm an argumentative kid, and that's how I'm being brought up. And you go from that to the prison system where you in the youth corrections. If you ever been incarcerated in New Jersey, you know the youth corrections. That was Gladiator School back in the day.
School, yep.
You know what I'm saying? So
Jamesburg.
so you in a situation where, I mean, I ran the gamut. You know, every prison in New Jersey for the most part, without you know missing a few here and there. But you know what I'm saying? When you're in a situation where you're a man who asserts himself at least and affirms himself in the mirror in a certain way, but yet daily you have to suppress that. Like, you have to, because self-preservation means you have to.
Mhm.
You see, so now the evaluation of character becomes skewed. Like, you look at yourself in the mirror and you build up a physical persona. You know what I'm saying? When you spend that time in the yard, you see niggas come home with their weight up. Niggas come home with their weight up because they got a lot of time to work out. But subconsciously, mentally, a lot of people are not tapped in, and you don't understand why you build up an armor. You build up an armor as a defense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't call it an armor if it wasn't for battle. You know what I'm saying? So we build up a physical armor, especially as black men, but black men who've been through the system, we've built up a physical armor to now say, we are that guy that stands 10 toes. But how do you suppress that to survive your day-to-day and still believe you're that person when you have to do it for a trajectory of 5 years, 10 years, 12 years? So now when you come out into the street and you face the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys that I faced in my own, my own situation, I was traumatized by the system, but I didn't know I was traumatized by the system until I had to revisit the system. Because when you are in the system, or as you go through the process, you get arrested. You know what I'm saying? Depending on where you at and who you was or what you was doing in the streets, the amount of time you was sitting after you got arrested was, subject to change. If you was getting to the bag, you in and out. You know what I'm saying? You popping the bail, you on to the next. So whether good or bad, that was my situation. So I'm amassing these cases and I'm paying lawyers to do things and file motions and without ever really stopping to evaluate what this process is doing to me, like on other levels that I can't see in a mirror. You know what I'm saying? So I get through those years with whatever strength and wherever I drew that strength from, I get through those years. But now fast forward to being, see, when you get arrested, what people don't understand, when you get arrested and you get sentenced, that court circus, that fiasco, those episodes that get played out in the courtroom, that shit stops. It's not like Law and Order. This ain't the TV. You know what I'm saying? That shit stops. Now, when you go behind the wall, like Law and Order will show you the courtroom, but they won't show you what goes on once the door closes. You know what I'm saying? Like now it's reality. So the theatrics is done. You know what I'm saying? So now you have to dig into a part of you that you either have or you don't. That we was talking about, that dog. You know what I'm saying? You either have that dog in you or you don't. But that dog has to become selective of what he's gonna fight. Because you can
play chess.
You can either fight for your physical freedom, or you can walk it back and temper it down and do everything y'all said you wouldn't do to sustain your mental. Because your mental is more valuable coming out of there than anything you could have created on the pull-up ball. I'm telling you, because you don't deal with the trauma. Like I didn't deal with the trauma. I say that to say, hold on one second. I say that to say it comes full circle, because when I started, you know, fast forward living a certain life and then going to prison and being in prison for a certain amount of time, you kind of get accustomed to what life is like in there. So it just becomes your day-to-day, just like you would have a day-to-day out here in the street.
Yep.
But then when you come to the street and you get back into the reacclimation process and you're getting back into society and you starting to unpack the bag, and you're starting to unpack the bag in ways that you don't see coming. You know what I'm saying? Like now you're starting to have nightmares, not about what's going to happen on the mess line or in the chow hall. You're starting to have nightmares about you're being ill-equipped to do what free people do, because now things are expected of you. Now you've come home from prison. People expect you. There's a lot of expectations on you. There's a certain faction of people who expect you to go back, and there's a certain faction of people who expect you to see the value in yourself and give yourself so much more. But that creates a lot of pressure. Those expectations create a lot of pressure.
That's a fact.
So I say,
but the behavior to the response is like for example, he was saying that like Antonio Brown's behavior, you co-sign it to some extent.
Yeah,
right?
but your behavioral response comes from more than just a place of being fed up, though. Your behavioral response, and that's what I'm saying, comes
which
from,
is why he didn't take the time. See, this is what I believe. He didn't take the time to figure out chess with the purpose of winning. And this is winning for his life, not like at life, or like, because technically he kind of did win at life. He got the bag, he got to play on the big stage, and he got to be no. That's
okay. That's
subjective, but it's really
I understood.
It's the truth.
Understood.
We're talking about him right now. Right. That's a winning at life in some sense of the word. In terms of, but
because we're keeping him relevant. We're keeping him relevant. 100%.
But here's my point.
100%.
Because you co-sign it with when one aspect I understand, but you gotta understand, he's behaving according to his growth, according to his understanding of how to respond to a problem. He doesn't know how to. He sees the problem as something that I need to have a tantrum about, rightfully so, but he's not giving us an understanding of what his purpose is behind it. Meaning, if you ask him, what do you want from your response? Because if you want what you want, then everyone can do that. Everyone has a right.
And now not being prepared. 100%.
Exactly. So he's not giving us the tools to get what we want from his response, even though he's right for responding.
You know what I realized about life is that, like, even the Bible gets misconstrued. In the Bible, some people could say it's very literal. Some people could say it's filled with fables and stories. And people misconstrue everything because we have different perspectives. My job in my life, my duty in my life, and I believe in philosophy. I believe I'm a part philosopher. Part of a philosopher is to understand the whys until there are no more whys. And sometimes people can't iterate their whys. I think if I asked him, he wouldn't be able to.
That's his job, though.
It's all of our jobs, but
Yeah.
that doesn't. Majority of people don't know how to iterate their feelings, right?
Because they haven't done that work.
Exactly. So now his response, I thought was beautiful. You know why? Because I'm so tired of seeing black men be silenced by money. I'm so tired of black men be silenced by the lack of the hierarchy. He has to respond to a person who's disrespecting him and literally standing over him, talking down on him. And
But when you're given a particular platform,
but that's the problem.
we got a duty to not respond a certain way. And I'm not gonna ever handcuff into anybody and to say you have to respond the way somebody else tells you.
Yeah.
But you have a duty to edify yourself and carry yourself in a way where you could be an example to whoever it is you know is inspired by you.
But you gotta the thing is we can't get to a point, like the world can't get to a point where you expect the first revolution.
A is getting ready.
Right.
I see it.
No, I hear you. I'm listening.
The world can't get to a point where we expect the first revolutionary act to be very calculated, because most of the time the first revolutionary act is emotional.
Which is why men are, I will argue this.
Well,
Men have just as much problem in power than women do based on emotion.
oh, what? Hell yeah, of course.
So
Men
the
don't know how to
emotions-
identify-
emotions
men
should
don't know
not
how to
be the thing
identify
that
emotions,
we
though. That's
argue
the
that
problem.
women shouldn't be in power about. It's
Yeah.
really, it's a whole nother story. But yeah, you're right.
So
But
now,
if you don't have emotional intelligence, it'll look like what your boy did look
but
like.
that's not intelligence. That's more so maturity. And that's
That's what we getting at, because emotional intelligence is tied to a level of maturity that you carry yourself with. Because if you were able to identify what you was dealing with in that moment, there's no reason for you to react like that, because you would know how to
So
step
who's
with
gonna
one
be the
foot in front of the other, but still keep
Well, so
your
let me ask you a
still
serious
maintain your
question.
dignity.
Would you have done it exactly the way he did it?
yeah. If I had to choose, if I had,
No, you wouldn't.
I swear to God.
Or the way Muhammad Ali did it?
See, Muhammad
Because
Ali.
we talking about them two in a totally
But
different way.
don't forget, Muhammad Ali was never he was never silenced to the capacity of every NFL player and every.
Argumentatively, you're right.
So like
But
he
he was definitely telling people they're trying to make me do this. They're trying.
Yeah,
He was
and-
doing the same exact
But here's the
thing.
thing: he was under a different, like even boxing right now. If we just look at all of the sports, if we want to compare them,
Yeah.
boxing, every one of the boxers typically say and do whatever they want, right? If a black dude come on a what's it called on a post conference interview and says nigga, he's fined $10,000.
Okay, you're making a valid point to an extent, because
But what I'm saying
here's
is-
what I think is more important. He wasn't trying to say anything in response.
Yeah, he didn't.
to
He
nothing.
wasn't saying anything.
That's my thing. Like,
It
what,
was just-
all right, so
it
can I
was
ask you a
just-
question?
That's the best part.
It was just theatrics
What
for
did
no
he say?
reason.
Nah, the best. No. The best part was he did not say anything. Like I feel like if he would have started arguing, right? If he would have started arguing, you know what it's like. This is where it comes where he was smart about it. If I argue with these people and I'm on the sideline arguing, I already been through that rodeo with Ben Roethlisberger and all these other people arguing on the sideline. Now I'm not a team player. Now da 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 da. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna say I'm done. That's what he said. His statement said, "I'm done. I don't need to be here. I don't need to be underneath you.
Well,
I'm
I
walking."
got kicked off. I got kicked off the bench. Remember, I got kicked off the bench just like Antonio Brown did.
well, I'm going.
I was 13 years
Listen,
old
I'm
when
gonna
I
say
did
this.
exactly the same thing he
What'd you
did.
do, yo?
I didn't take off my jersey. I kept it on. I was during the game. I said, F you to the coach, F you to everybody, and the game was going on. He kicked me off the bench. He said, go home.
Yeah.
And he said, as a matter of fact, get out of here, give me your jersey. And I said, F you. I kept my jersey and kept it pushing.
Why? What was the reason?
I wasn't,
No. What? Like what?
for him kicking me off?
Yeah. What? Like what? No. What was the reason for you feeling that way? Like what transpired?
I felt I was right
About what though?
about how I felt about the play, about what I was yelling to my teammates, about my teammates on the court. I was just passionate. It wasn't no ill intention in me until I had to deal with that person directly in response to what he was telling me to do. but
No.
I was wrong about
now-
how I handled myself.
Imagine somebody
But I
coming
was-
over to
well-
you and yelling in your face while you're sitting down on the bench and saying, if you're not going to play, get the fuck out of here.
Let me ask you a question.
So wait, hold on. No. Let's
All right.
keep going.
I'm 13 when I do this. So
I know.
I'm going to respond the same exact way he did.
But you know,
I'm telling you that he gave me my 13-year-old energy, and I realized, damn, if I was in his position, I'd have to do this differently because I'm not the same man I was. I've gotten kicked off the teams already.
But that,
Maybe he-
but that
what I'm trying to
right
say is
there.
you're 13 years old exercising freedom. Like, you're like, yo, at the end of the day, I don't need to stand in any place.
You see, the only reason
what
I
I'm
was
saying?
about to go into it and say that I
Pardon, let
agreed
me
with
open
your
this up.
opinion
You do your
there
thing.
was because I didn't know that's where you were going. I thought you were going somewhere completely different. And I was getting ready to just go in on Antonio Brown and his actions and his behavior and what I think is becoming of somebody who's representing whether they like it or not on a particular scale. However, what you said kind of threw me for a loop. And it's when a person makes a particular decision, which we were talking about, but the decision that he made was that, yo, I'm done. And that's powerful because it's like to say I'm done for the average person. It's powerful, but it's on a more magnified scale because of his line of work. You see,
It's history.
Because if a broke guy goes to his job and he tells his boss based on something his boss says, you know what, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? That's a powerful statement because he's making a decision like, yo, but Antonio Brown was saying, I'm done to a lot of things. And that is where I kind of understood where you were coming from, because if money starts to silence you, you wouldn't stand on that I'm done, because what he had to know in that moment, I'm thinking I'm done.
It's like,
I'm not just done with Tom Brady in the NFL. I'm done with Nike. I'm done with Mountain Dew. I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I'm losing more than just one bag.
Can you be honest and say
you
that?
lost seven.
You think he knew that he was doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, but I don't think he knew he was doing it at the time.
You think Kyrie knew he was doing it?
But here's where the growth comes in. Whether he likes it or not, you grow because he has to live with that decision.
But like the thing is, and
you have to live with that decision.
This is why I say it's so powerful for people, and just to say, like, this is where I draw the line. I'm on this particular platform or on this particular job, I am obligated to be your puppet. I'm obligated to respond to things the way that you are telling me I have to respond to them. And it's like, I'm also obligated to deal with certain disrespect from other grown men that I see as another man.
Yeah, I don't agree with any of that. And honestly, I believe that you're right.
But
freedom
like,
in his ability.
How do you make an impact for others? See,
that is my point. It's how you respond.
But that's what he did, because think about it like this: I'm somebody who was
when you could say that you've done it before, like you just said before, I've dealt with it with Ben Roethlisberger. Like, you've been in that situation before. Like, for me, if I am on my way home right now and I just make a detour and I jump off at 157 and I say, fuck it, like, just for old time's sake, I'm gonna flip a bird. Fuck it. I'm gonna grab one. Fuck it. Like, if I move like that and I get bagged on the way home, you hit up a week from now and say, yo, how'd the edit come out for the show? I'm like, yo, damn, G got bagged on the way. You like, in your mind, the first thing that I say, like, damn, bro, I was just talking to this nigga and he been through this shit before. Like, why would he move like that?
Mm-hmm.
So now you can't justify just saying I want to stand on my own too, when you know the decision a person is making is, number one, to their detriment, and number two, it's just stupid. It's not logical. And we talk about mental health in the space up here, and we kind of zero in on the effects that this unpacking has on our mental and how we develop as a man. And his lack of emotional intelligence in that moment is a prime example of his mental state and whatever trajectory he took to get there, not preparing him to be where he was in life. Like when you're not
Nah,
prepared
bro,
to be
I
where
can't
you are in
agree
life,
with
you
you.
react. You react a certain way
You know what
because
I
of ill
think?
preparedness.
Yeah, because
Here's what
he
I think.
OD'd to make his statement, but he did it in a way that I would never want my child to do it that way. If you're gonna be done, there's
Like,
so
yeah,
many
you
ways
can
to
make
do
a
it. And you
statement,
know
but
this.
there's ways to make a
You
statement.
know
No,
the
there's
man you
not.
become today would not act out that way just to do the same thing you could do. And there's a million ways to do it.
But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is, well, for me personally, I understand. See, we're talking about impact now.
Okay.
His actions, you know what he did? This is where I disagree. This is why I disagree when we talk about emotional intelligence and emotional maturity. He never cursed. He never yelled. He never swung. He never attempted to hit or harm nobody. He went to the side. He said, "I'm done." Took his jersey off, smiled, waved, gave his jersey out, and trotted off the field. There was no act of violence. There was no act of disrespect.
Let me ask you a question.
It was actually more so of him.
So what it lacked made you appreciate it more?
No, I'm saying that because he didn't respond in those harness ways and it didn't respond, and those are real emotional ways. Right? So like, but the fact that I could leave with a smile on my face, you think that he didn't know he was gonna lose all these endorsements?
Let me ask you a
This
question.
is an impactful thing. On the kids' side, the kids are gonna be like, I would never allow that to happen to me now. You know how many parents, did y'all play sports?
Of course.
We both did, yeah.
I played sports. I probably feel like I'm the last of the last generation or age group, not even generation. I'm the last age group where the coach could disrespect you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
I say that. I say that a lot.
And now these coaches have to use
Go to
gentle
jail. Yeah,
coaching.
they go to jail.
Okay.
Facts.
And what do you think that happened from?
I was cursed at when I was told to leave the gym, so I know for a fact.
but that was the error.
Yeah, that was the error.
Yeah.
That's what he's getting.
And then they wouldn't let you play as that bad kid, but they could be talking to you like you are a bad kid. No
It
matter.
took 1,000 of you to make that statement.
Let me ask you a
1,000
question.
of those situations.
You know what I did? I was looked at like I was crazy by every one of my peers.
Let me ask you a question.
Nobody was like, yo, Aiden,
what's the difference
Aiden,
what's the difference between what Antonio Brown did based on your description just now and that kid when we was younger in the park get mad at a call? He like, nah, I'm going home. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Like that
is what my
that
point
is the exact
it's
reaction.
gentle. He's not
That's
being
his exact
disrespectful.
reaction.
It's childish, bro.
The difference is
It's a
I'ma tell you
childish
the difference.
reaction based on his inability to handle the magnitude of the moment.
I'm not saying what he did was wrong in terms of being done.
Gentlemen,
I'm saying,
you can make your point and still thrive in the moment. Go ahead.
Gentlemen,
we here for
by
you.
y'all.
We love it.
You're making us
Now, this
feel
is
like
dope.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love
So
it.
look,
I love
so
it. I'm here for it.
I'm gonna tell you what the difference. The difference is that was a one and done. Okay, which some people could say and
A one and done in what respect? What you mean?
the kid that said I'm going home with him taking my ball. Right. That was a
you
one and
you
done.
don't think anybody's going to let him play with his ball anymore?
No. I'm saying he only faced one obstacle. Antonio Brown was kicked off because he didn't want to wear their helmet from the Raiders. Before that, he was basically annexed because Ben Roethlisberger didn't want to play with him on the Steelers. So now he's been getting kicked out for what he stood for.
Is there ever a point in time when you say to a person, yo, listen, if your situation in every place you go results in a problem, the one common factor in all the problems is you. So it's like, it's one thing if you know what I'm saying, like, it's one thing, like I used the example before about me getting arrested or doing something, reverting back to old behavior. It's one thing if you do it once. My lawyer once told me, like, you can't stand in front of a judge 3 and 4 times and keep telling him that would make
I'm
you
sorry.
do it. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell him, like, you don't understand. This is the situation. Eventually, who you are is going to be on display in live and living color, and you're not going to be able to walk that back. And what Antonio Brown did in that moment, I think unknowingly and unbeknownst to him, is saying I'm done effectively began to close the window on his relevance on the platform that he was given and squandered. You know what I'm saying? And that, I think, is a lot for a person. And he's not even begun to do what's necessary to unpack that bag.
No.
Which
He's
is
not going to
pretty
understand.
much the point of this whole thing.
He's not going to understand what he did to the trajectory of his life until he comes to a point where he has to do some self-evaluation.
But we're talking about a person being free in a program society, right? That's what we're
To
talking
what extent, though?
To the extent that we focus on his actions happening because he was a common denominator.
Well, what do you consider freedom?
I'm going to get to that, right? But we sweep under the rug all the other facts. Okay, we sweep under the rug that Ben Roethlisberger has had problems with multiple different
Oh,
receivers.
yeah, that's true. This
right?
is true.
And
I'll
then
accept that.
So we swept under the rug that Tom Brady has had problems. We swept under the rug that even that coach has had issues.
Okay.
So now when we sweep, it's easy to put somebody as, the pinpoint of this is why you should not do this. But then again, was the only person that was kind of standing up to the same people who had problems with a lot of other people way before him. So the common denominator isn't him. The only difference is that he's the one that they couldn't break. He's the one that they couldn't mold. And oftentimes the black sheep becomes the goat. And it's only because they're the ones that have to set an example.
But what are you trying to be broken from though? Like
why do you want to be free?
Like as a businessman,
why wouldn't it be free?
No,
let me ask you a question.
If this is what he's doing with his freedom, and there's no purpose, because like what did he do after he broke free?
He signed a $5 million record deal. Okay,
and went and talked shit.
I mean, listen, the lack of emotional maturity happens when he started doing things to Tom Brady and his wife during the marriage or divorce. That I would say was wild.
But this speaks to the character of the man that still did what he did in the moment.
But now I
understand everything you're saying, right? I understand.
Now I fight with the point because a lot of these people are characters once they are a star. And that's the problem that ends up happening. Segueing just a tad bit, like I had situations where people be like, do you really believe what you say? Of fucking course. I didn't say it to be a character. I'm not here to be this. Now, can you paint me as that? I'm pretty sure I gave you enough clips where you could say I'm this, I'm that.
Yeah, you've been standing on that in different ways, yeah.
So, but that doesn't make me like
ill guy, a bad guy, malicious person.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it also doesn't make me a character. I'm not doing it for no money. Even though I do get paid, but I didn't get paid for the first 2 years of doing this. Right? So it's like him, on the other hand, I feel as if a lot of people too that leave the sport or leave or retire, whatever, they embodied an identity with that realm so much, you end up lost. So how do you then pivot and figure out who you are? Or do you continue to be what they told you that you are? Especially if it's paying you.
This is why I think before he responded the way he did, even though, everything you're saying is that you saw freedom in his response. You saw liberation. You saw him standing on his, standing against the grain and on his word. That's never the problem. If I have a problem with you and I stand up to you, and my standing up to you is me pulling out a gun and shooting you, that's not the right response to handling the problem.
At what point in time is
no. See, I said I stood up to you.
His point is, at what point in time is standing your ground just cutting off your nose to spite your face?
Right. Because that's what we do as black men. That's what we always do.
Actually, that's what we never do, and that's why the narrative continues to be the same.
You took three people that had to go through a lot to figure out that we're not.
I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying as a collective, right? Collectively, we are usually the ones to cut our noses off.
Well, that's what we're saying.
We're trying to tell people there is a way to get what you want.
No. By me saying we choosing to cut our noses off, I was using it in the opposite context.
Okay.
As the we?
Yeah, because we cut our noses off, and I'm using it as a literal context. As a literal context, the black man is identified by their nose. We cut our noses off so we can be paid. We cut our noses off so we could behave. We cut our noses off so we could be silenced. We cut our noses off so we can listen.
You're right. There's another way to look at that.
You want to get this job, sir? Go to college. Why?
Okay.
because I said so.
Okay.
You feel me? You want to
I
get that
100% do. I agree with that, but I've
Walk
grown,
on this line.
I've
You feel
also
me?
grown
It's
up to
crazy.
understand that everyone gets to play chess. If you don't learn how to play, you will always be a pawn in this game. And the thing is, that's why being this dog that I am, I need to figure out how to be a king too. Like, I'm tired of playing a dog and getting the same response from my dog energy. It's not working.
Yeah, but
that's what I mean. Like,
sometimes you're a pawn, but for the wrong side, right? So now, if you're a pawn for the wrong side,
I like how you're doing this, but it's not working to the point. It's working.
I'm just
but it's not working because in my
I'm not
opinion,
trying to change your mind, right?
No. You're giving me perspective, and I hear it. But you're talking about. You're not talking
like
about
whose
yourself.
side are you on?
But you're not talking about yourself because you're not a pawn, and you're not teaching people how to be pawns.
I'm teaching people that it's okay to be a sacrificial lamb. That's what I'm teaching people.
No. So wait, hold on. That's wrong because not everyone can stand after their sacrifice. Nah, see, that's the problem.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying.
You just said it. Not everybody's a dog. Now you want everybody to be a sacrificial lamb?
No, I'm not saying what you can stand for. I'm saying that it's okay to do it. So like what my personal belief is the sacrificial lamb, the first one always gets the negative.
It gets the brunt of the impact.
But guess who is realistic? He'll never get the credit. But now if the whole entire format of the league changed, we are gonna say it stemmed probably from him. I would say in the last 20 years, it stemmed from him and Kaepernick.
Yeah, but changed for the better?
Yeah, because if you think about it, like we lived in a controlled society where everything is controlled.
I do agree, mind you. I got a different viewpoint than a lot of people. And not a lot of people would agree with my take on Colin Kaepernick.
Okay.
Not a lot of people will agree with my take as a black man on Colin Kaepernick. However, because I'm always interested in perspective and learning, and I recently really started paying attention to growing out of a particular, not only mind state, but a particular prison, for lack of a better word, that I have myself in based on the way I compartmentalize shit. So with that said, now I respect the light that Colin Kaepernick shined on that industry. Now, I say that people wouldn't always agree with me about Colin Kaepernick because I'm a football player. I'm a football fan. I analyze the game.
Got a football heart.
And you know what I'm saying? And let's be honest, like Colin Kaepernick took a knee because Colin Kaepernick was pouting. Colin Kaepernick didn't take a knee because he wanted to change the country. Colin Kaepernick took a knee because he lost his start and he wanted to throw a tantrum and he took a knee. Now, like, listen.
It turned into more.
I love the spin they put on it. I love what they did with it. I love how it became a movement. And I love the correlation that he drew between the NFL draft and the slave trade, and shined a light on professional sports and the way athletes are used as pawns, as you guys just said. However, you can't take away from the movement that starts because of a particular wave. However, don't give undue credit to somebody when it's not deserving. You understand? Like, he didn't try to change the nation.
No.
He didn't.
Wait, who? You talking about Colin?
I'm talking about Colin Kaepernick.
No, yeah, he didn't, and I agree with you.
And I bring that comment up because you used him as an example, but I think for the sake of our conversation, that action.
But he was doing what we believe he believes is, well, we all believe he was standing in his truth. He
lost a lot.
That's but that's what I'm saying. I disagree with that. I believe that his action was a form of emotional unintelligence, and I think he was pouting about not being the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, it had nothing to do
I don't think Colin Kaepernick, like if you're a football fan, like if you watch the game, if you remember the rise and fall of the 49ers at that time. You remember how he burst onto the scene. You remember how his play went all the way up here. And then you remember, like, if you're a football player, if you're an athlete, you know the notion and the old adage that after I got 16 weeks of film on you, now I could break down your tendencies. Now, how good are you really? You throw a football like people throw baseballs. So how far do you think this career can go when you're not a constant student of the game and you're not constantly improving week to week, season to season? Colin Kaepernick was at a point where he was throwing picks. He was turning the football over. He lost his start.
All right, so he was pouting.
Was pouting, which is the form of emotional intelligence, which is what Antonio Brown did. The difference in their actions,
you know what's crazy,
became how you pivoted and what you do with the platform you create.
Yeah, because he started to,
because now he shined a light on something, and his shining the light or his unpacking in that moment ended up shining the light on how he came to that opinion, that frame of mind.
The thing is, sometimes when you take a stand, you don't really
it's true.
I believe in divine.
Because it's really about you and who you are at that moment.
Exactly. So you don't really know the storyline is going to play. It's always an impulsive thing, right? When I was a junior in high school and I had my do-rag on, and the Pledge of Allegiance was on, and my teacher said, "Take your do-rag off," and I said, "No, I'm not taking my do-rag off to say the Pledge of Allegiance." I got sent to the office. I got suspended for 2 days.
Let me tell you something. There's a difference.
But what I'm saying is, there's a reason.
Right.
If we pay attention to the universe and we pay attention to society, we pay attention to people, and you study the constant things that always happen over and over again, is because there's a purpose that needs to be done that has not been enlightened yet. Right? So if I can say I was out here making a stand against the United States national anthem,
right,
years before Colin Kaepernick was now deemed as it, right? I know for a fact I'm not the only one. And then when we start to ask why, right? Why do I have to stand? Why do I? And that's what they always try to stop us from doing. Why do I have
understanding what the point is behind something?
Or yes, understanding the control that we have surrendered. Right?
Yeah.
Why do I have to? I can say I respect it, and I can keep a hat on, I can stand, I can sit. It doesn't mean I disrespect it, but I'm disrespecting it to you, so I must obey.
It's funny. It's funny because Wayne Dyer also said something else. Society has a tendency to honor its living conformists and its dead troublemakers. So like if you're alive and you're basically trying to change the narrative, ask the question out loud and continue to question it out loud.
Yeah, they'll try to bury it.
And then in a way that like Malcolm X did it and so on and so forth, you're not going to get the praise that you're supposed to. Only the conformists do while you're alive. But when you're dead, the entire nation is going to love you and your story because we're going to, you know what they're going to do? They're going to monetize off of that.
Yeah, because you know dead rappers get better promotion.
Yeah.
And you know, they've been saying this since the beginning of time.
But Wayne Dyer also said, I just want to add this in there, you jump right back into it. He also said in that same segment or whatnot, speech, that the people who we think did or do things without reason gives the people reason.
Right. Which is why it's always going to be important how you do it. Whether you like it
good
or not.
Bad. Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. Because like good or bad, you're going to either...
going to be important,
which is
but
why I
it's more
agree with
important
you.
Depending on the platform. Depending on the platform you have. Because you have more of a duty.
Today...
If you could reach 2 million people...
Huh?
What's your duty though? That's
and you know what's funny?
If you can reach 2 million people with your platform.
That is exactly what I've been trying to figure out, what you think about yourself.
Yeah.
Because I hear you trying to be a voice for the voiceless, trying to be, you know, the armor for the people that are continuously like running away from the idea of trying to be free and be themselves. But
I just want to
is
live in
that
truth.
really your purpose?
Yeah, I believe in living the truth.
Or do you just like fighting?
Nah, I'm a great fighter though.
I don't doubt that.
But the thing is,
but a great fighter knows, you know,
yeah,
like you know what I'm saying? Like eventually
what
there's
battles to choose and what battles not
pick
to.
your battles, of course. But the thing is, like now we're at a thing. I'm extremely spiritual, okay? I studied the Bible, I studied the Torah, I studied the Quran. I was a Catholic, turned to a Christian, to a Baptist, to a Seventh-day Adventist. To that's when I started to, you know, adapt some of the Islamic ways.
So you studied.
I studied this all throughout high school.
Right. You can't come to these
to these
to these
things. Yeah.
opinions without actually going into the text
To
and
the
knowing
text,
what's going
exactly. And then the reason why I studied it is because I realized no one knows anything. So I'm like, you're telling me this, you're telling me that, you're telling me this. The best way I can get an actual universal truth,
Study
probably,
everything.
is to study and
Is to
see
study
which
everything.
ones are all the same, what rules are all the same,
on. Right.
right? And what I realize is that we've all been taken away from our true ability. And it starts with silencing us. It starts with installing fear in us to not speak and be who we are.
Okay.
And that's my real thing, because it's like, how many times, like you said, voice of the voiceless. I'm doing a show right now. Shout out to Binge Crime TV, where I'm going to be hosting a crime show. And part of the actual script that I had to read for the intro was, I'm Rico, and I've been the voice of the voiceless. Now, that's not an ironic thing. You've never heard that, right? It's
Never.
not even out.
Right.
Right?
But I feel that's your energy, and I feel that's
Yeah.
where you come from when you do things.
But we are
And
all
especially in
voiceless, though.
this state of
think-
conversation. Like
You know, it's so funny. Real, like when I started making music and I wanted to be a rapper, right? Part of the reason why I wanted to be a rapper was because I wanted to have a voice that mattered. Because I believed that I would do the necessary job to find out the truth and then seek the truth and speak the truth and take whatever comes from it, good or bad. That's
Okay.
what I always
accepting
felt.
your consequences in the process.
Yeah, and
Being
but,
a man, essentially.
but eventually, what's gonna happen is I'm always protected. Nobody can harm me because I'm protected. The worst case scenario is you send me home, but you send me home for me fulfilling my purpose. How can
no.
lose?
I absolutely agree with that. I love that.
No,
know
I
what I'm
agree
saying?
with it. I
Love
agree
that.
with
So,
it. I
but-
agree with it.
But now what
And I
happened?
agree. I agree with a lot of what you said up here tonight. I don't want you for 1 second to leave here and think that I'm just hell bent on disagreeing with you. Where the place where, for lack of a better word, I get not confused and I don't want to say worried, but where I start to wonder is when a person decides so avidly to live and make those decisions. Are they really prepared for the consequences, and then not just what the initial consequence is, but the reverberating effects of that consequence? And so often as Black men, we make decisions because we're so caught in emotion in the moment
Mm-hmm.
that forget the leadership that we display. Forget that leadership. What we do in so many instances is allow ourselves, in trying to assert ourselves, to feed directly into the stereotype that we're trying not to be a part of.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? And
Sometimes you go too far.
then because of that, we're forced to lose opportunities. And you know what Antonio Brown has to do in the face of losing all those opportunities? He has to stand in it. And he has to say, you know what? I shoveled shit on my life and I'm loving it.
But it's not shit,
But you're
though.
not really loving it. You're putting on a mask because you're dealing with it and you don't want to see people. Because listen, let me tell you something.
There's like, let me ask you a question.
Can you ever have enough money?
You can never
mean-
you can never have enough money.
Well, here's my thing. Let's say if you were a millionaire, if you were 100, if you had 100 million and you had a $200 million contract that you had to fulfill, and then you would have 300 million. If you lost that 200 million,
Mhm.
you wouldn't appreciate that. Like, that's something that you would sit there and be like, damn, I just fucked up an entire bag.
You know why?
Like, you don't just scoff at that because our
we're
objective is
we're in
to
program.
uplift
Let
ourselves.
me ask you a question.
I don't know about the we part. I just know because I've never been able to be programmed.
I'm not. Oh, you know what? So this is one thing I've been trying to do.
People are
is
programmed
choose
even
my
when they think
words
they're not
wisely.
Now, I know what you're.
And I
I
apologize.
want you to talk to
No, I
the
apologize.
idea that not everyone also is programmed. But even if we are, you don't get to do whatever you want outside of the program because you don't help.
That's power.
No. See, that's the thing. Do whatever you want.
I do what I want.
So then answer me. Why are you here? Because if it's about you, then what's the point?
Nah, well,
I'm talking about serving a bigger purpose
Yeah,
and
yeah.
doing what you have to do
Right.
for the bigger picture, not just
in that
and
moment.
I'm not saying conforming to the program. Create the program you want for yourself and then serve it in every way. Don't disregard or sabotage your ability to be who you say you want to be.
Facts.
And
Yeah.
that
'Cause that's
comes
too many
with
times
making
that's what we
sure
do.
that
We
you're
handcuff
playing
ourselves.
chess.
But you also can't do it that way either. It's a lot of detriment to that as well. See, at the end of the day, people fail to realize that you got to look yourself in the mirror.
But you can't sacrifice yourself to benefit yourself.
No. I don't think you
You
should
understand?
sacrifice yourself to benefit yourself, right? But I'm going to tie two things in, right? You asked me, can you ever have enough money?
Right. Well, I asked that just to play to a point, but go ahead.
And to use that, I've seen commercials, and at this point, I see Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, and I see people who've never had money and they are extremely happy.
No, I don't for 1 second think you can't be happy without it.
So that's my question.
Right.
So then, what makes us happy with it? It's because we were taught that if you have money, you can obtain certain things,
Yeah.
and then we're fed that we should go after certain things.
Right.
It's all training.
Without
Right?
question.
Now, if I learn to live in a happy space, for example, I learned this from Dr. Holistic. He went to a place after he got his doctorate degree, and I believe it was in either Indonesia or like the Philippines, and they have the most centurions. They're the most people in all of the world who
That
live to 100 years old.
Yeah.
Those people don't worry about currency. Those people don't worry about processed foods. Those people don't worry about image. So what are we doing? We're destroying ourselves trying to basically take on whatever we're told that we should want and should desire. So now when you ask me that question, just to bring it all full circle, is like we're playing chess, but by whose game? We're
Right.
playing chess on their chessboard. And even if I win chess, you know what happens? They knock the pieces off and say you still
Well, I
lose.
did say create your own program.
But you can't create your own program obeying their rules.
All right, rules are created for someone to benefit from it. Someone.
Yeah,
Someone.
someone. Yep.
I will say this: we do have to wrap it up, and
Okay,
I'm
my
so
bad.
mad at that. No. I'm not. This is the fact.
I don't want, and I just want to say, don't confuse not wanting to live by the rules with not having structure, because it's two totally different things.
Because
And you gotta have structure.
in essence, I know why rules exist. I have rules for my businesses for my benefit, so I can go from point A to point B, scale, so on and so forth. So I understand rules as sometimes a personal benefit to the person that's created them. So I do know what you mean. I just believe when you get to a certain stage in life, you cannot do what you did as a child. You can respond according to what you believe in, but it's a different way. I'm not even.
Right.
There's a way to do it. There's
Always a way to do it, and that's all I
I.
care about with what we're projecting right here. Because you don't want to sound ignorant, so you choose to study.
Well,
But
I've
you
been
can
studying.
stand on all those
Yeah.
10 and sound crazy, but because you ain't really educate yourself. Because
Yeah,
the
but-
opinions could come from a very uneducated space,
They can.
and they could be just as right.
But you know what happens is, who are you? See, this is the thing.
Who are you to evaluate what's right from who?
Thank you.
So then stop
Yeah.
studying that.
No, it's not about that.
Yeah.
No, because what it is just because how you receive it and how you digest it doesn't mean that it's not right. Listen, the most important things in life take a long time for us to get it and understand it.
True.
And at the end of the day, I want to also just say
Certain
this
people.
certain people. I want to say this before we close out. I don't stand by no man's rules because I really feel like I'm living my divine truth. So if you can say I can't do this, or you should say I might have to do things that way, and if for me it does not move me, my intuition is telling me no, I'm not gonna do it. And I think that we all feel that way, but we all tuck it to the side so we can get to where we envision ourselves. But realistically, we ultimately live lives that we don't want. That's why the most people
Because
that commit
no one-
suicide are rich,
True.
right?
And you want to know what
That
else it is? Because they don't really know who they are.
And you know why? Because they were doing what they wanted to. They were
The
doing what
mask.
they had
the
to
mask.
do.
It's a mask. It's
Yeah.
a mask. And they didn't know how to get it off. So
Well, yeah.
here's what I would say. I applaud that.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
and believe it or not, that I can see. But that's not, see, like you said, not everyone understands the perception that's being laid out. And that's really the problem, because you have-
perception goes a long way.
Yeah.
And, but you forgetting.
But understand
You taking
perception is only
respons-
temporary.
It
Fact.
is, but
Because
you
reality is gonna show
when you
itself
stay
one
on
way
the
or another.
freaking internet, it ain't too temporary, isn't it?
No, it is, because the thing is, right,
No, I mean, like, you continue to go viral. There's
No,
a new
this-
perception and a new
this
perception.
life is temporary. I'm not worried
Oh,
about
okay.
this life. Too many people worry about. I don't care about this life. If
Right.
it take 200 years for people to understand what I'm saying, then so be it. I'm willing for that's not. I'm not here. You know what I'm saying? I know we got to rap, but Achilles, right? One of the greatest things. I was watching Troy. I think it was made in 2007. So I was like 14 years old, right? Maybe even younger. And they were telling Achilles not to go to war.
Right.
His own mom, who was a goddess, don't go to war. You're not gonna come out.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's all right. My name will live forever longer than my body.
That's a fact.
So now, if that's, and I'm on that same mental. So if I say something right now, and then it sounds completely crazy,
Right.
and I die in 50 years, and you see all these people, rest in peace, Nipsey, where now they're starting to unpack.
This is so true.
Now they're starting
agree.
to unpack
It's
what
valid.
he's
It's
saying.
valid. Definitely valid.
I'm not living for right now. I'm living the truth, and I know the truth is going to be picked up whenever God says it. And so with that being said, I don't fear no other body's structure. I don't fear a man's rules or a man's structure or how I need to conduct myself, how I need to dress. I should wear a tie. I should not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's never going to move me, because that's not who I'm here for. I'm here for what this place should be. And if it takes, like I said, 200 years for that to unpack it, then so be
I'm
it.
good. I'm good. I'm
feel
good
me?
with that. Yo, he's a bigger devil's advocate than you are.
Yeah,
And
no,
it's crazy.
but I love it though.
I do
I love
too.
it because it proves that despite how you arrive at certain conclusions or certain places, like, you get there, and it's a different trajectory for everybody. But so long as you're doing the introspective work along the way,
Yeah.
they'll come to a point where you can have a collective discussion and you can really figure shit out. And I think we did that. I think
We
hit the
did.
goal.
Y'all, again, I want to say thank you.
Thank y'all.
Fact.
And I
Thank
have
you
a
for coming up.
newfound respect for you, and I see you.
Appreciate it.
I see you for real,
In a whole different
I don't even
light.
see you like I
Facts.
saw you just because I'm in passing scrolling. I see you, and
I hear you more.
I want you to continue
More so than anything
to
else.
do a little bit more of what you did here, because it's actually the message that I feel like men like us will be like, yo, I needed that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, you know, have me as a guest. So, and you can get it.
Facts.
With that said, I want to leave you with this, guys. Allow your actions to be guided by love, your thoughts to be rooted in peace, and your life to always mature in happiness. My name is Aaron Easton, aka Mr. Always Good, Never Bad.
And I'm Gregor Figro. He got me messing up too. AKA Felony Fit.
And this is Unpacked, and we thank you for joining us today, man. Peace.